Alright, so that piece just came out of the freezer. So now I'm just gonna slowly just heat up the inner race just a little bit. Not enough so it actually changes color. You don't want to take out the heat tempering. Obviously I'm using pliers to hold on. Normally, if you do it right, it just slides on. Probably didn't get it warm enough, but I think we'll be fine. Because what I'm going to do is run real quick to the vise. Perfect. No gears are hurt. Slides on. And I got it right flush against, almost. Because I got to make sure that I can get that little clamp back on. That little clip. Just like that. Drop this guy into place. Get it close enough. I don't want to touch it. Still warm enough for too warm for my flesh. For all the times they never want to stay in, here's the one time they don't want to let go. And she's in place. That's now good. She's already cooled down because this was nice and cold. We already put the seal back in. I literally just pushed it in with my thumb. I made sure it's nice and flush all the way around. So now to get it in, just reverse. I've already got it. Make sure you never put it in a seal dry. We lubed it with the same gear oil we're going to use. Gonna go in because it's still that little cold. You know what? What I'm gonna do, instead of going ahead and thumping it, I'm gonna throw this whole thing in the freezer and just let her freeze up again. And then we can just gently tap. I don't have to worry about having to hit too hard and wrecking anything. So I'm gonna put it in the freezer and let it cool down. Stop. All right, so this bearing just came out of the freezer. We pull those guys out. Now normally you just need a socket, but alright, I'm gonna go grab a socket anyways, but now that it's mostly in, you see how nice and easy it went in? Should be good. Alright, impact socket. Make sure when you're hammering you hit on the outside race, not the inside. You'll ruin the whole thing. Perfect. Now, it's gonna grab the other one. Stand up, Donnie. Where the other bearing go? So I'm just gonna look at this part here. 6203 P6. Run to the freezer. All right, so that's what we got put together right now. We just thumped in the new bearings. It helps when they're cold, but as soon as they warm up, because that top bearing right there was not actually in the freezer, so it went in way harder. This guy here, after it's in the freezer, this one, because it was really stiff to get out, it was stiff to get back in. What we ended up using is a socket to still get around. A 32 millimeter was to still fit on the outside edge and fit over top. Something like that, until she went solid. So I got that in. I'm going to tighten it up, and then after that I'll show you how I'm going to get all the gears back into place. This is the casing. We thumped those guys in. That seal we pushed in. There's that other bearing went in. Used the biggest socket I had, a 36 mil that fit nice inside. And you want to be able to push it in. I got the flash on. But you can see that we're actually below that line, because we have to be able to get that big C-clip on. So that's in place, which means right here, here's the new needle bearing. I went oil inside and outside. Right now, because you got this little oil race, make sure you get in the hole. All the needle bearings, it's going to push in, flip around. That guy's just nice and loose. Hard to do one-handed. But that guy's going to go in. And a way to help. So here's the new gear they already had ordered. I went and lubed up all along here because it's whatever's going to touch the seal and go on the inside of the bearing. And that's what I'm going to put in. Alright, so that clip went in. So we're going to go back. So we got this here. Fits right on top. Make sure it's right in place. Do not spray a seal. Then we're going to get this guy in place. And yeah, we'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Alright, so let's try to remember how all this goes back in. So we got that gear coming in, the primary. This one fits into place. Remember that little guy right there. Now the next one is going to be our brand new shift cluster one. Hold up. Alright, so now we got this guy, which should fit right into right way. Like that. That I need to take out, so I'll end up doing that. Now the next thing that goes in, it's going to be a bit of a dog's breakfast because you got to get this guy in. He fits in right there. But first, I'm going to have the fork and this guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it all out. I'm going to look at it so I can make sure I get it in the right way. Because remember I said there's a right way and a wrong way. So I'll show you what that looks like. So here's what I surmise. My index finger right here. This is the side of the actual that's going to go into that slot. And you can see where that step is. Because it's got that little bit of a step because it has to, that's for that bit of the shift over there, that top one. It's got to fit on that. You see, if I was to put it the other way, it's not going to fit because it actually, that there is higher here. I don't know. You see how it goes together? That's how it goes together. Look for that step. See the angle side? Put it that way. So I'll be honest, you got to kind of just fiddle with it. So this here, make sure it's all the way, as far back. Let's see, because when it turns, you got to kind of slide it into place with that guy as you push it in. Now for here, to make sure you have it in the right spot, just look at the end of the teeth. At least you might be able to see the top better. As you can see, that last tooth on the actual shift lever, you can see there's that last slot. You want to make sure that it fits into that last slot. If you have it canted too far down, you're going to have an empty tooth. Too far up, it's actually going to bind on that top piece. So just kind of make sure that all the teeth kind of have a home. And that, in a nutshell, is here ready to go back together. Which means we're going to take this guy and we can put it back in. I already kind of cleaned the gasket all around the edge, so I'm going to grab the new one, slip it into place, and I'm going to put this guy back on over top. Show you what it looks like. So what Donnie's doing right now, you don't have to tighten it with that fucking extra bar, because then it's going to be fucking tight for me to get off. Essentially what he did, remember that front one that I told no one to take out? Now you take it out, you put the ball bearing back and just put it up. You don't have to worry about really lining it up, because it can really only go in 3 spots, right? So even if it's a little bit in between, it'll click back up into place. He tightened it with a wrench. I don't recommend that. It's aluminum. You don't want to strip any of that out. So just go about that tight. We'll probably even back it off and go later just to see. We'll see how it clicks in. So essentially, I'm just having a smoke and a beer break. No point in being on Garage Beers without a beer. But yeah, just wanted to fill you guys in on get that ball back in so you don't lose it. All right, so we got it in place. I made sure I lubed up the inside of that seal. Now you have the 2 dowels. When you're pushing it in, you want to see that's in place. You don't want to just start hammering it in because you don't want to smash that into it, right? Because the gears have to line up. But you can feel that's lined up. So we just gently tap all the way around until it kind of fits in. Alright, so she's in pretty flush. all the way around, and then make sure it's even. See, a little tighter around the bottom, then the top. So I'm going to tap along the top a little bit more, and then I'm going to take all these bolts, put them back in, and when I'm tighten, I'm just going to do a cross pattern, but I'm going to start in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is going to tighten from the middle out, and I'm just going to go in increments. So I'm literally going to tighten them so they're just flush, then put another little turn, again, go in that cross pattern, and do that all the way around until, just remember, they're just itty bitty guys, so you don't have to go too tight. That is just aluminum, and that's what we're going to do for now. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Alright, so we're going to put together this variator now. So, I got to find, right there, we've got it all cleaned out. Here's our new weights. A lot of guys weigh them to make sure they are what they are. You get those little kitchen scales. These are supposed to be 12 grams, so that's what we're going to go with. We're hoping for a little bit of top end, a little bit of extra top end. We got them in the other little buggy, and it seems to be still fine. We had someone who has one that's complete stock. He took it for a ride, and he said it feels the same. So we didn't lose too much low end punch. I can still get it going sideways, so let's see if we do the same thing. So you literally just kind of slip them all into place. Now we got this piece. Remember, you need all these. If you don't have them, it's going to make a god-awful noise. So I heard. So generally, if anything is going to break on this guy, it's going to be these. They're just little plastic, so that's something to check. But all these seem to be fine. Feel not too bad. A little bit of cleaner, but it's not like they're actually worn. So now when you go to put it back on, just like you had it, line it up, and it's not line up. Difficult to do with one hand. There you go. That's done. Now remember, we have this piece here, fits right in. Now when he's done cleaning that, I'm just going to slide it back on. Then we'll slip the clutch onto place, and I'll show you how I'm going to do the belt. Alright, so it's the morning after. Kind of had to backpedal a bit. As we noticed, that seal was kind of all cockeyed and pushed in. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. We've got it all, so we had to take off the other side, pull all the gears, put everything back, put it together. So what I'm going to do before I do the variator and the clutch is I'm going to actually fill it up with oil to make sure I don't have any obvious oil leaks, and hope from there. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do because I don't have a filter or a funnel that fits in there real nice. But we're just going to go measure out 0.75 liters. We're just going to put in regular some 80-90 oil in. And yeah, dump it in. I think the big points I'm looking at, I want to make sure nothing comes out of here. Do hold that right, because that's the seal I didn't change. And then I already made sure the bottom were tight. I undid the one that Donnie kind of reefed on because I had to take it out again to put that ball bearing back in. So that's properly torqued, and then I'm just going to double check the oil, the actual drain plug. But we're going to fill it full of oil, and as long as nothing starts dripping out, then we're good. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is going to be the clutch and the variator. So I'll start with the variator. Like I said, you want to kind of make sure it's all put together. Make sure you grasp the back piece here, because you don't want it to fall out of place. Just as it's already moving. So that's in place. Make sure that's all good. All right. Next. All right. So just use my hands. Squeeze the inner belt, the inner pulley here, and it's got a twist when you're doing it. But you want to get get the belt. See how I have it wrapped all the way around. It's gonna kind of hold it in place, because I'm going to need as much play as possible to get it around the actual variator. So, my arm's going to cover most of this, but it is what it is. I'm a one-man film crew. That's kind of the way I like it anyways. Oops, put it on backwards. Don't do that. Fits in. Now get this as high up on there as you can. Get that to stick in place. Please don't let it move. It already wants to move. Now, the thing is with the variator, see it's already coming back a bit, you want it to be as high up as you can on there, because otherwise you won't be able to fully tighten it, and that's going to be bad too. So, just going to squeeze this a bit more. Push that belt in. Like so. And I'm going to want that because you want it to be pushed up right against that big sleeve. If I tighten right now, I can look in behind and I can see that that is not against the sleeve, and that's going to be bad. So just squeeze a bit more, use the belt to hold it into place. Finger tight, it's right up against, good to go. Now, that does have a bit of play, which is kind of the opposite of what I want, because that is going to move and make noise. Oh, you know why it's miscut play? Because I need the important part. I need to put that bell housing on. Because that is going to push against, and therefore, it'll all fit better. Perfect. Then I'm just going to take the impact, give them a couple ugga-duggas. Nice and tight. Now, remember, it should be easier to tighten on because when I was loosening it, so when I pressed the impact against the wheel, so now I should be able to just fit in and get on there. Put it in place, kind of hold it a bit. Looks good. I don't want to go too tight. If a guy was to take off the wheel, it's 4 bolts. It makes life a lot easier, but probably the best way to go. But who likes to do it the easy way anyways, right? Alright, so I'm going to try to fit this on the same way. Use my handy dandy bungee strap to hold it up. Maybe that'll give me some more room. She ain't going nowhere. Alright. So I'm just going to make sure that all the gasket is off here. I'm not as concerned about this gasket. It's more or less to keep crap out. But, you know what? Might as well make it as best seal as we can. Take the scraper, a little bit of sandpaper. Make sure you don't remove too much metal, because then that's just kind of counterproductive. But yeah, we'll come back to that. Alright, so we got it all back in place. Now, some things to note. So just remember, up here, you have your 2 grounding wires. Those need to go back on. As well, because it's kind of pressing, like you got the bearing on here, that's on the actual case, that's going to press onto the actual clutch, onto the shaft going through the clutch. You gotta, I pretty much just kind of tapped it a little bit with the hammer. You gotta still make sure it's lined up, and then get it in as much as you can. Don't hit too hard, because I mean, this is still aluminum. And then when I got it in quite a bit, so it was actually seated. Then I would tighten it up, and I would just do a cross pattern on either side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so that it all just kind of sucks up evenly. Because you don't want to put it in on an angle, If it's on an angle, you'll hear probably pretty quick because everything's not running right, or you'll just blow up all your bearings that we just put in. So don't do that. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the exhaust and get back onto the other side and probably start looking at putting a chain back on. All right, we're going to put this gear back on, literally just the same way it came off. Clean some of the crud off a little bit. Alright, so I put the other piece, that locking piece is on, so that's good. So it's just gonna go on here. Oh, we need to put this guy back into place. So I'm gonna do that first. Alright, so we got this guy fit back into place. We're gonna tighten it up. Now one thing I'm going to do just to make sure everything's still kind of where it's got to be, I'm probably going to tighten this up first. And then just remember while we can still kind of see, but not really for you guys. So just remember you got a washer on the bottom, and then you got a spacer, and then you have this womped out bushing that I had that's going to sit on top with the nut. And it'll all kind of go through there, but I'm going to tighten that up first before I start putting it on there. Alright, so I actually ended up putting this piece on wrong. So just the best way to tell, because how it let me know is just the pattern. You can see that where it's pressed against the body and then where the nut is kind of tightened on. So just future reference, that little nub sticks up into the front. And this little guy here, right over top, because that's the bracket that holds the cover on. So the next thing we're going to put into place is going to be the gear. Doesn't really matter. The big thing is make sure you have the right slot so it lines up with the gear, because you can see it has two. Next you can take the little one. Now you'll notice because it slides on and you want to get it into that groove, and it slides and then lines up with that gear. And that's more or less what's going to lock it from sliding back and forth. Get them started with these itty bitty little bolts. Little lock washers. And we're almost ready. Slap that chain back on. There's the guard. I'll be putting it on. Probably won't be going on in this video. I got a few other things that are more important that I want to get done. Alright, I'm going to tighten that up and then I'll start putting the chain on. Alright, so I still have everything nicely in place. I'm going to take my pliers and grab on that nub on the top and push it back. That's essentially how I got it off. Then I lined it up, made sure I gave myself some room to work with. I'm going to slide it in. Put that piece back on. Make sure it fits, get both screws. Now, when I want to put this link in, I'm going to want to put it that way. So as it spins around, if it hits anything, it's going to hit there. It's not going to hit like that and try to pop it off, if that makes any sense. I don't know how much of a difference that's actually going to make. I saw it on a channel that I follow. If you actually want to know a lot of cool stuff, I watch Cars and Cameras, and they kind of show me a lot of neat stuff. So if you really want to see how guys do it and are really good at this stuff, go check them out. Redbeard's Garage too, they're really good. If you're really looking to get into go-karts, I'm not really going to say that this is going to be everything. It will be a lot of it because I just kind of film what I do in my acreage, and keeping the kids happy is one of the big things of what I do on this acreage. Alright, that's in place. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten that guy up top. If I can find the right sockets. Everything's kind of going all over the place. 17. Get nice and tight. Now you don't want to be too tight. Like that is pretty damn tight. I'm going to loosen off just a little bit. I don't want a lot of play. Like, it's still kind of stiff too, because I mean, it's just lacking a little bit of lube. You don't want it too loose because it'll kick off. You don't want it too tight because then you're going to put too much drag and it's going to kind of pull itself out. That's what I'm going to do for now. I'm going to just tighten up at the bottom here. I believe that was the 18. So it's not going to go absolutely nowhere. And yeah, that's that side done. Next we'll get that shift linkage on. Alright, so I got it all put back together. I can't find any more parts, which is good. Everything looks buttoned up. The last thing that I need to do is we need to adjust that guy. Everything seems to be good. I got the tire back on. She's super loose. We're going to probably have to tighten up that wheel hub bolt nut there. Essentially what I'm going to do next is I need to get it started first. What you want to do, so when you put it into forward, then you want to make sure that these are just tight, right? That one feels pretty taut right now. The reason why you either got to do it when you're rolling, because then it can click in and out of gear. Because if it's just in between, remember how those teeth have to fit into the slots? If you're trying to tighten on that because it's not fully into place, then it's not going to really do anything. So you want to make you can get it into gear, make sure it's just tight enough, and then kind of go as you go while you're driving. But in order for me to do that, because I did have to rob the solenoid off of this guy, that normally goes right there, to make that one run as well. I'm going to probably run a bunch of cleaner through the carb, put the airbox back on. We got a new solenoid. We're going to do that. So essentially all I'm going to do is I'm going to go take the solenoid off the other one, which is literally 2 wires. Positive, negative, and then this little guy here goes into place. It'll turn over. I'm going to run some carb cleaner through there and literally just swap this out for a new one, and we'll just keep this guy as a spare. As soon as I get it running, I'll show you what it looks like. I think I'm going to do something with this wheel because that really bothers me. That's not right. Alright, so as soon as I get it running, I'll go from there. Alright, so the oil has changed. Everything's buttoned up. I tried to put the airbox on, but as you can kind of see where that blue duct tape is, there's like no rubber left. So I made a little bit of an end of duct tape, just pull the tube out of the airbox and air filter on the end, just not sucking in a ton of dust. It does in fact run. I'm going to just pretty much put on some lights. Actually, I don't know what I'm going to do. I might make a separate video of how I'm actually going to set up, replace the front lights with some LEDs. I'm going to do with relays and switches and do it all proper like. Maybe make another video. But, might as well as my finale, we'll just maybe go for a little test ride. Alright, she's rip roared. Let's see what happens. Seems to work good enough for me. Alright, until next time, we'll see if we make some videos on what we're going to do to make these things go a little faster. Alright, talk to you in a bit.